What's going on, everyone? My name is Cubs fan Han, and we are here to review Good Omens, a new Amazon miniseries that just came out this last week. And I apologize in advance for the setup behind me. This is very boring. I know I'm out on business in St. Louis, and I just finished this show, because what else are you going to do when you're out on business sitting in a hotel room by yourself? I binged all 6 episodes, and I wanted to give you my thoughts while this was still fresh. Now, Good Omens is a story about heaven and hell preparing for the coming Armageddon, and centers around an angel played by Mckean, a demon played by David Tennant, and their relationship as they deal with the events leading up to Armageddon. Now, before we get into anything, it cannot be overstated that the dynamic of Mckean and Tennant in this is just absolutely through the roof. These two were perfect, absolutely perfect cast for this part. Mckean's character as the angel Aziraphale, and David Tennant's character as the demon Crowley just really bring a really fun heaven and hell dynamic to the show that I think really carries the show and makes it what it is. In a lot of ways, to be honest, I think Mckean and David Tennant really carry this show. I think there was probably a gap in how interested I was when they weren't on the screen, but when they were there, their scenes, just the dynamic between them and the comedy of Mckean playing this super good kind of antsy angel named Aziraphale, and David Tennant being this baddie demon who David Tennant playing a bad guy works really well. It kind of reminded me of this Barty Crouch kind of feel that he had in Harry Potter, where you just kind of had that evil feel to him, and you didn't get to see that very much in Goblet of Fire, but here you really get to see it milked, and it's super satisfying. I also really love that this was a mini series. 6 episodes felt like the perfect amount of time to tell this story. It felt like it had a really good, satisfying arc to it. 6 episodes works for this show. It does not work for season 8 Game of Thrones. This show definitely is a religious satire based on prophecy in the Bible of the last days, and also events in the Bible such as the Noah's Ark and Adam and Eve, etc. Now, for all you Christians out there, I do not think you need to worry about being offended by this. I'm personally Christian and very religious, and it really did not bother me. If you're one of those people that is really sensitive about their religion, there might be a few parts that offend you, but even then, I think you can probably get past it and see this show for what it's worth. But if you can't, then all right, to each their own. British humor in this hit on all cylinders for me. I'm personally a big fan of British humor, and that's probably something else to point out. If you're not a fan of British humor, you might have a hard time getting into this show because it has a very potent British feel to it. Similar to I'd compare it maybe to like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was a movie that had a similar impending doom feel to it, and it's just kind of like these characters are in these huge scenarios, but they're still, making light of it in a really funny, humorous British way. To me, it works for me. It might not work for you if you don't like British comedy, though. This definitely is one of those shows where you can see the pretty stark contrast between film CGI and lower budget TV show CGI. And there were a few scenes that kind of stood out to me that made me think, that's TV show budget CGI, but it wasn't enough to detract from the story or take me out of the moment. In spite of that, there still were some pretty awesome visual moments in this show. One scene in particular, I won't spoil it, so I'll speak vaguely, but there's one scene in particular with a burning car. I wish I would say more about it, but I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it yet. But for those who have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, I know I did definitely gush over David Tennant and Mckean, but there were other great actors in this show. One such standout to me was definitely Jon Hamm. I did not expect him to show up in this. By the way, I hadn't looked at the cast list before, and then all of a sudden I was like, Jon Hamm is here. That's great. And I think you guys will really like his character. He's really in his element here on this show, in my opinion. I also loved Michael Mckean in this show, who played Chuck in Better Call Saul. Now, he was such a convincing Englishman. I actually had to look it up. In my mind, I thought, wait, is he English or is he American? Because the way that he played this role, he kind of plays this grumpy old Englishman who's kind of, I don't want to give it away too much, but a very paranoid kind of character. And to me, I just thought, oh, he's English. Man, he does a good American accent. And then I looked it up and no, he's American. He just plays a very convincing Englishman. Very, very solid performance by Michael Mckean. And then, of course, Frances McDormand, who already is a god, and she plays the voice of God in this. And her voice is just I just love her voice. She was the perfect narrator for this. It kind of, there's parts where this almost feels like a book on tape with how much narrative she gives us. And the exposition kind of went over the top at some points. But to me, I kind of liked that. Just maybe it's just because I just love listening to her voice, but it also kind of fed well into the style of the show, which, speaking of the style of the show, is very, very witty. I've already mentioned the British comedy, but just the visuals of the show, the way that the show progresses, the way the scenes cut together, it feels very witty and different, and it might take a bit for you to get used to that style, but for me, once I was used to the style, it sat well with me, it read well, and I was sucked in, and I loved it. Now, this might be a positive just for me because I'm such a Queen fan, but the show also splashes several Queen songs throughout the show in a lot of different ways, straight up Queen songs, and there's one scene in particular where a band is playing a Queen song, and I love that ongoing theme of Queen for whatever reason. It just felt cool to me. I just really liked it. I also really appreciated the plot of this show. It was very unexpected. When the show started, I thought it was going a specific direction, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's not happening at all. It's going in this direction. Then there was another moment where, oh, no, it's going in this direction. And it just kept twisting and turning right up until the last episode in really satisfying, entertaining ways that I really enjoyed. At the end of the day, I definitely recommend the series. If you have Amazon Prime, I would definitely watch this when you get some time. It's a quick watch. Or if you have a friend who has Amazon Prime, get their login and go ahead and watch the show. I'm gonna give Good Omens a solid 8 out of 10. All right, everyone, thanks again for joining me for this video. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and hit that like button, as it does help me grow this channel. This is my second channel. I'm just starting out with movie reviews as its own channel, and so more subscriptions, more likes, more shares definitely helps me grow so that this channel can be successful, and I really appreciate those of you who are here early to support. And as always, my brothers, don't forget,